Mesdames et messieurs, je vous dis bon après-midi, bonsoir, bienvenue. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to say a quick hello and welcome. Welcome to another great presentation of the program ASHFORD GARLEY Live. I'd like to say a big thank you to our partners in Liberia, our sister stations in Liberia, 101.5 Joy FM, 104.1 Live FM, Top FM in the Southeast, 105.3 Super FM, 95.5. Just like that, folks, 10 p.m. in Liberia, you have easy 1.5 listeners right now from BRIDGERADIO Africa to Mama Liberia. We're also live on YouTube. It's a simultaneous broadcast, both on Facebook and YouTube. We're glad to be in this position. Very shortly, as soon as we get signal from our special guest, we're going to be bringing him live. As a matter of fact, Top FM from the Southeast just joined us. From Zredu, Grand Judah County, Zulu Whiskey, that's 105.3. Ladies and gentlemen, by way of introduction, this is the brother who doesn't eat iron, but he's definitely stronger than a lion. The medicine of the microphone, the golden voice of Liberia, the broadcast commissioner. Please allow me to borrow the wordings of the wise man. Tough times don't last, tough people do. The height of a man is never known until he rises, because there's no second chance to make that first impression. A bald-headed man does not walk on the moonlight. Don't see okra and swallow bone. Yours truly, the giant, ASHFORD GARLEY. Welcome. I'd like to say hello to a few friends here tonight on the platform. I see Zulu 2 Open Garley, my little nephew, Agba Mobilu, Adolphus Khan, Jebe Kamara, We Adore, Clarence Tiller, Theophilus Fala, Nayan Netanyahu Rock, Annie Boy. It's been a long time, Big Sis. How's everything? Miamen. And I also see Kalonzai and the rest of the crew in the house here tonight. A.B. Bobley, my man, it's been a while though. Francis Power, Clarence Jackson, and the rest of the crew. So shortly, as soon as we get signal from our man George P. Lobo, an executive of the Unity Party based here in the Diaspora, that's the United States of America and Canada, we will bring him live tonight, and we'll have a lot of things to talk about. You know, just gonna have a little conversation as always, tough talking. The young man has a gift of gap, and we're just gonna let it roll tonight. Grab something to drink, get the popcorn rolling, invite a few friends, and please share the video. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to say hello and welcome to ASHFORD GARLEY Live on BRIDGERADIO Africa. I want to say a big thank you to our sister stations in Liberia, Top FM, and top television in Zoto Grand Judah County, Top FM 105.3. We also want to say a big thank you to Live FM 104.1, George FM 101.5, Super Television and Super Super Radio 95.5 out of Marufio, Liberia. As we speak to you now, we're also doing a simultaneous broadcast on YouTube as well. So if you have low Facebook fatigue, just go on to YouTube right now, and as we speak, we're live, streaming live on YouTube as well. At this time, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce to you our special guest, Mr. George P. Lobo. Georgie, hello, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Mr. Garley. Once again, it's a privilege to be here with you. I am grateful and honored by this invitation once again. And I look forward to being here.
As always, I will give you the first minute or two to give us your opening statement.
Mr. Garley, I want to say thank you very much once again to my fellow Liberians, wherever you've tuned in from this afternoon. I have come here to highlight some of the national issues confronting our country. 2.5 years ago, on the 22nd of January 2018, the Liberians inaugurated a new government headed by George Weah. The expectation was not that he would build for us New York. The expectation was not he was going to build for us Yokohama. But the basic things we expected was that he would protect the rule of law. He will protect the Constitution. He will do what it takes to upgrade the living standard of our people. We expected transformation. What we didn't know or what we didn't anticipate was the recitement and repetition of mistakes that they criticized. Today, folks, I have come once again as a Liberian and as a citizen of the Republic to continue to ensure that this government feet is held to the fire, that we hold government accountable for its promises made to the Liberian people, in ensuring that our people's rights are protected, in ensuring that our country is stable. Notwithstanding, George Weah, His Excellency, was once upon a time the peace ambassador who was ensured, who was opportune in giving the task of reconciling our country. And we believe that if there was anyone who should have installed that make sure that peace and security will be of a priority in his government, it will be under his administration. As we proceed tonight, I will take the time to highlight some of this government performance in areas that we've expected a lot better, that nothing have been done, while our people continue to suffer, while the rule of law have been dished, while the president who took an oath to protect and defend the Constitution violate the Constitution every day, and the code of conduct no longer applies to them, they're above the law. So those are things I'm here once again to highlight and to also talk about some other initiatives that I will be engaged in as it relates to the draft and that of the CPP. And so, Mr. Garley, I'm very much grateful to be here once again.
Well, let us begin from your home front of the CPP. You had a planned protest, and the CPP decided to suspend the protest. What a sudden change.
Mr. Garley, it was not there was a sudden change. We need to understand what is at stake. The CPP is an institution. We made our case to the Supreme Court. We highlighted reasons why we felt that have those concerns not been addressed, that we were going to engage in a sustained political action. One of the major issues that we highlighted in our petition was the issue of elections integrity. We wanted to ensure that Liberians can go to the poll come December 8th, and that the candidate they will cast their votes for will be reflected in the results. And we could only ensure that will happen by making sure that there was not a dubious and clandestine voter registry roll. So how could we have done that? Was to demand that the process be halted, to ensure that the voter registry roll was clean as mandated by the Supreme Court in 2017, and that it was that was cardinal function. There are other issues we highlighted. And as you are aware, Mr. Garley, the leadership of the CPP, we suspended the protest. We didn't cut it off. We didn't say there will be no protest. But when you make demands as an institution, one that assumed to be responsible, it is prudent enough that when your demands have been addressed, that you continue to engage in ongoing negotiations to addressing the concerns we highlighted. Mr. Garley, as you are aware today, it has been reported that UNDP and ECOWAS data analysts have arrived in the Republic that will begin the process of voter registry cleanup. So the CPP then said, okay, we have seen the steps taken in ensuring that the election that we will be engaged in come December is credible, is free, fair, and transparent. So that was the decision. That is how they arrived at the decision. There are other national issues that, yeah, once we take care of this voter roll, we can continue to pursue gradually. If those demands are not met, we didn't say we'll never have a protest. We said we suspended the protest. Now let us ensure that the voter registry roll is cleaned up. So that is the process we are going about. So I think that is a right call. That is a judgment call. And I want to thank our CPP leadership for that initiative.
Well, cleaning the voter roll is one thing. Let us take a look at the election commissioners. During the Ellen Johnson Sirleaf administration, you had representatives from the CDC at the Election Commission. You also have representatives from the Liberty Party at the Election Commission and several others. Now you have an Election Commission that has only members, if it might be correct, of the CDC. Does that bother you? Does that bother the CPP and other political parties?
As far as it does cause for concern, I think every Liberian, this is alarming, given the history of elections in our country. As far as 1985 election, so we know what have happened in our country. But you see, Mr. Garley, the government has a responsibility to the people. We expected that if there will be any president in the Republic, that these things would not be talked about, that would have demonstrated some of the most honest and credible decision-making would have been George Weah, given how he was marketed as the man who loves the country, as the man of peace. You know, it is unfortunate that this is what Liberians have ended up with today. Now, Mr. Garley, we are concerned. We are worried about where we stand as a nation, given the fact that we see what is happening in West Africa as it relates to elections. So these things do call for concern. But what we are saying, Mr. Garley, is that we are going to ensure that we take the necessary steps to making sure that our people will show up to the polls, that Liberians will understand what they are up against. There's a way we can defeat the CDC, Mr. Garley. It's by showing up and voting in mass number. And not just voting, but ensuring that those who become poll watchers as well are properly trained and are committed to ensuring that every vote cast is counted so that we eliminate irregularities and ensure that this government do not compromise the election for us. And that is our effort. What, you know, Mr. Garley, like I said, and you know, I do have a conversation with a lot of our leaders, but what we have said again, we're not just going to sit while waiting for the voter registry roll to be clean. The CPP as an organization, we must ensure that we hire the best poll watchers who are loyal to the organizations, who will not be compromised. And so that is our position, Mr. Garley. It does cause for concern. When we have the former chairman of the CDC, Chairman George Solo, on your platform on numerous occasions stating categorically clear that the current elections commissioner is a fiancé or one of the concubines of the president, That cause for concern. So we know what have been said,
You can't,
but the Liberian people can
you
prove
can't
it
have
wrong.
a wife and have a fiance.
I mean, that's not so. A concubine, let's use the word concubine. That is what he said. I'm quoting the chairman. And he said he was a living testimony. He was there when she arrived multiple times. I'm quoting what we heard on the Bridge Radio show from the chairman Maritus. So these are things that does cause for concern, Mr. Garley, and we are very much worried about it.
Now let us talk about voter intimidation for a minute. People are saying they have been intimidated during the campaign rallies, and they are afraid that it will just have the voters stay home because of fear of being beaten or hurt. What are your concerns when it comes to security?
Mr. Garley, we are very, very much concerned. Liberians must be allowed to exercise their political right, their constitutional right, which gives them the right to assemble, to go to vote for an elected official, people who will represent them in parliament. This is part of the Constitution. You know, Mr. Garley, is so sickening that a government elected by the people and should be for the people is now working against the people. You know, that is heartbreaking. But the Liberian people have gone through a lot. And at this particular point in time, what we expected was something better. For George Weah and his team to think that they will intimidate our people in this critical time. Mr. Garley, I can assure the Liberian people that we will show up to vote. We will ensure that our people rights will be protected no matter what happens. These are scare tactics by those who do not see their way through. You know, Mr. Garley, I always like to speak using an example for those of us who are students. The student who studies, when he show up on campus, I don't care how many noise y'all make, where y'all put us to take that test, we are prepared and ready. You know, Mr. Garley, it is unfortunate that the ruling party is the one who is an opposition to herself. The ruling party have engaged in more activities to marketing herself. I don't understand how is that possible. You are the ruling party. You hold more press conferences. You hold more political rally than the opposition folks. You got what we want. When we have what you want, you won't see us doing what you're doing. You won't see us assemble at the headquarters every other day to host press conferences because we'll be busy in running the country and ensuring that our people's lives are better. So one thing I would say to our Liberian people, that no matter what, we must not fall for these tricks. We've been there before. George Weah needs to learn. He needs to read, Mr. Garley. These tactics were tried in the past. And those leaders who try it, history has a way of teaching people. They did not end up well for them. Some of them today, they are history, and however we choose to discuss their history, that is what the books will say about them. President Weah should not be surprised. You know, I know that he was not in Liberia during some of the most difficult time of our country history. But President Weah is not ignorant to what is happening in Liberia. He's not ignorant to what is happening around Africa. We saw great men like Blaise Compaoré. Today, he's in exile seeking citizenship in the Côte d'Ivoire. How many of us thought that Omar al-Bashir would leave power in Sudan? How many of us ever thought that the late Robert Mugabe would step down? The MDC, the Movement for Democratic Change, led by Morgan Tsvangirai, led multiple protests and rallies in Harare. Today, the story has changed. And I want to say to President Weah, you're a young man, you're 53 years old, you have a long way ahead of you. Don't make decisions now, tomorrow, that you will regret. If you ask Babo today, he wished he had listened before. That's all I will say to you. I wish you all the best. Those around you today that might be lying to you, they won't be there tomorrow. You alone will stand and will bear responsibility for whatever happened during your leadership. Chancellor didn't go to Sierra Leone, but today Chancellor is the one in jail. History has a way of repeating itself, and I hope you learn from it.
Well, these elections come December 8th are very vital to both the ruling establishment and the opposition. President Weah wants to regain Maserati by all costs or means. You listen to the chairman of the CDC, Molba Molu, come out to say if Thomas Fowler does not win Maserati, he will resign as chairman of the CDC. And that others on the other side, the opposition, that said they will also step down doing whatever they are doing now. What role will you be playing during these elections come December? Do you have any plans of going to Liberia?
Mr. Gali, I will be in Liberia. As you are aware, I am a member of the CPP by the way of the Unity Party, but I will be in Liberia for a different reason. I have something that is on this that will be on the ballot come December 8th that is paramount to me, that is of a major importance to me, that I have decided that at this time around, I will take up that fight for Liberians in the diaspora. The issue of Preposition 1 is on the ballot, and that is my fight. I will be in Liberia. I can't rule out everything, but my primary focus being in Liberia is to ensure that Liberians are informed and that I can embark on a massive civic education initiative on informing our people on the danger that Proposition 1 poses to the growth and the future of our country. As it relates to Chairman Molbo Molu, I wanted to, I don't, Mr. Gali, I tend not to pay too much attention. You know, most of my jokes I share with the former Vice President Joseph Boakai. And he said to me in one of our recent conversations, he said, George, you have to pay attention. I said, what, Pop? He said, sometimes when people are talking, you need to look at who's talking. So sometimes, Mr. Gali, I would say, using JMB's words, who is talking? Is it the chairman who talks is all liquor talk, or is it a normal chairman? But on the issue of Maserati, I strongly believe the CPP does have a great chance. Senator Dillon have been campaigning vigorously. I've seen a lot of young people moving towards Senator Dillon's directions. However way, whatever technical advice we can provide behind the scene, we will. Because I don't want to make my trip to Liberia being seen as more of a CPP agenda. I think what I'm intending to embark on affects all Liberians that live in the diaspora, regardless of party, tribe, religious affiliation. I think this is bigger than just the election. Dual citizenship with restriction is something that I'm against, and on the basis of that, that is my focus being in Liberia. But I will be in Liberia. Yes, I will be in Liberia.
Well, folks, if you just joining us, this is ASHFORD GARLEY live via BRIDGERADIO Africa. We also want to say a big thanks to our sister stations in Liberia, 105.3 in Zwedu Grand Conde, Top FM, 101.5 Joy FM in Monrovia, Liberia, 104.1 Live FM in Monrovia as well, 95.5 Super FM in Monrovia. Mr. Lobo, what do you make of the alleged ritualistic killings in Liberia? I'm told, and you may agree, that every time you have election around, strange things start to happen. And today we have missing 3 young men in Bone County. People are saying it was accident, got drowned. Others are saying no, there's nothing such as drowning. And some people are saying it's foul play, and some people are saying these men were killed. And family members are still optimistic that their family members will come back home. We interviewed relatives of the missing young man. We also interviewed the accused, Saint Moses. What do you know, George?
You know, I like how you pose the question to me. What do you know? What I know is basically what you know from all public accounts, from what we all have been reading. I listened to St. Moses on your podcast during your deliberations, and I've heard the parents as well. Mr. Gali, and I want to thank you very much for one thing you said just now. I want to say your words have been well chosen. You begin the statement by on the alleged ritualistic killings. And I think that is the best thing for all of us to do. The fourth estate, especially you guys who have a long-term ambition of being journalists, whatever you would turn out to be, not me. The fact that you use that word, I think is important. You're not assuming, you're not blaming anyone, you are not leveling charges on anyone. Because as for Mr. Garley, some of us who are custodian and believers of the law, we believe that everyone is presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond unreasonable doubt in a court of competent jurisdiction. Now, having said that, Mr. Garley, the most important thing is that I want to extend. Right now, I can't say sympathy, like you said. We don't have information whether they are dead or not. Mr. Garley, I had this conversation earlier today. Every time I discuss this issue, it really, really hurts my heart and brings tears down my eyes. And the reason is, Mr. Garley, I tend to empathize with the parents. As a father, I have lost my own. I've attended 2 funerals of my own. So I know what they're going through. And these are difficult times in those families' life. All I would say to every one of us, whatever assistance we can provide in ensuring that those children are returned or that they are safe, I will ask that we embark on that journey and let us hold our speculations. Let us keep our assumptions until all can be done. If there's a need for us to mount pressure on government, for government to ensure that those kids can be rescued, let us do that. But on the issue of ritualistic killing, Mr. Garley, I am no stranger to these stories. To this morning, I shared a story in 1998-99, if I'm correct. There was a story in Ganta that involved Saint Yiba and Francis Tenwa, where a little girl was murdered in such a terrible fashion. And as a result of that story, Mr. Garley, I know what happened. When Paul Moluba arrived in Ganta, his town was upside down. These things need to stop. The desperation of people in position wanting to use other people's kids for their political survival. It is terrible, Mr. Garley. It is pathetic, and it's totally unacceptable. You were given a job to do. If you did the job well, you will be re-elected. But you people get a job and don't do nothing and want to use other people's kids, other people's loved ones as a means to rescue your position. This is bad. But Mr. Garley, we need to understand as well, until we build a country that jobs are given on the merit basis and not on the basis of party loyalists, not on some fake ideology or some fake revolution, we will continue to have people who do not have the capacity to deliver. And when they fill these positions, they believe that they are entitled to it and they will die before they leave those jobs. So they are willing to do whatever it takes to keep them occupying those positions. Mr. Garley, there's a lot of things happening in Liberia. And most of the reason is because many of those folks, they know under normal circumstances, some of the people we've elected to be lawmakers, they should only come to Capitol Building to come petition real lawmakers. Some of those folks should not be to Capitol Building. So what do you expect them to do? They will do whatever it takes to keep their jobs. A man with no income today makes $10,000 or $8,000. That's more than a 200% increase in his income. You think he's going to give that away? Liberians need to sit back. When these elections come around, put your emotions aside. Facing the reality. Look in the eyes of these folks. What have you stood for? What is your experience? What are you bringing to the table? If we're not going to keep asking these questions, we're going to give people, the wrong people, jobs. And for those wrong people to continue to maintain these jobs, they will go to any length and any extreme to keep those positions. So for me, I'm only going to call on the government to ensure that those people's children are secure and are returned to the families. Mr. Garley, I walked to the hospital where I was told that my son was dead. I was in the hospital when the doctor came and said, this other one is dead. I know what that feeling feels like. It's a different feeling. And I can imagine what those parents are going through. To be sitting there and not knowing the whereabouts of your children, at least when you know, it's a different ball game. Right now, you are caught up in a situation you just can't comprehend. So it is a terrible thing, Mr. Garley. And I want to condemn this in the strongest term possible. This has to stop. People need to stop using other people to maintain your job. This is not how it works. You should use your ability, your experience, your qualification, not other people's children. This has to stop. And for me, Mr. Garley, I strongly believe for us to clean Liberia, we need to change the constitution. I've been very clear on that. But we need death penalty for a lot of things.
But George,
a lot of things we need death penalty for.
George, if this is true that they are killing people just to maintain power, why kill other people? Why you can't kill your own children?
Mr. Garley, that is the greatest question we always ask. You have yours. Why don't you use yours? But you see, one thing I've learned from watching African movies, not everything we know is true, but I've learned a lot. In the African movie, the Bible said the devil got no free gift. Every time you've gone to get rich, you know what the consequences are. You know what the payback is. It's nothing of a joke. So they understand what is at stake. And I totally agree with you. Mr. Garley, this is why for me, I strongly believe that we need constitutional reform so that we ensure that we have a strong judiciary system, that someone who killed people's kids, if convicted of a crime, he himself must be put and hanged in the day. Mr. Garley, to be honest with you, Liberia, where we are, we need to take some drastic measures. And I'm one person who have no hold back on some of these things. For rape, I'm pushed for death penalty. You kill somebody on foolishness, you yourself must be hanged. I ain't got time to play. Because you can't leave people family grieving and tomorrow they see the man who murdered their son on Broad Street. How they supposed to feel? How they supposed to think about it? We need to give people closure. At this particular point in time, we need to start setting precedents in our country. For too long, we've allowed these folks to continue to survive and think that this is the way forward. No, it is not the way forward. The way forward is for you. When people give you a job, when you are elected as a lawmaker, you go to Capitol building, you got only three functions. It's representation, lawmaking, and oversight. Do it to the best of your ability. When you've done it to the best of your ability, the people will re-elect you. But you go to Capitol building, you turn your back on the people. You think you've reached to heaven. And when election coming here, you want to start doing all kinds of things to make yourself look like something. Our people need to reject these folks. These inexperienced people making their way through the corridors of power. So, Mr. Garley, this is terrible. And you ask the right question. Folks, if you give your kids, will not bother you. And you have them. Why you can't use yours? Leave other people's kids alone. Their parents might not be worth it today, but their kids are their investments according to our African tradition. That's what we believe in. As much as, like I told somebody one day, Mr. Garley, that in Africa, our parents don't get financial aid. They don't get food stamp. Government don't provide insurance for us. But our fathers, our mothers will do their ultimate best to ensure that they pay our school fees so that they say we acquire the education that one day we'll be able to work and provide a better life for them. You can't take people's children away, Mr. Garley. This is unacceptable. And I strongly believe nothing has been done enough to serve as a deterrent for some of these folks. This is why this nonsense continues to happen.
So
we need leadership to take some serious steps.
What is your expectation from the government of Liberia? You see now the family members of these missing young men are very angry. They are planning now to end up with the destruction of property, for people who they believe are responsible for the missing of the children. I mean, I believe in the rule of law, but what do you expect from this government, the National Police, the Ministry of Internal Affairs, the Justice Ministry? What are your expectations?
Mr. Garley, you and I know where I stand on the rule of law. I support the rule of law 100%. But let me say one thing. Former civil rights leader, the late Martin Luther King said, and I quote, he said that demonstration is an expression of oppression. Okay? When the people who should be protected by their government feels that their government is against them and their government is oppressing them, when they get to the street, I don't know of a demonstration that have been very civil. A lot of things can happen. So the government has a responsibility, Mr. Garley. The government must lead. Mr. Garley, we have a government that missing action. I don't know if Chuck Norris is good enough to go find them. We can't find them. We ain't got no Chuck Norris. We have a president who's completely silent. The president addressed the nation from his pulpit where he's more comfortable spewing out gibberish. That is not leadership. In difficult time like this, you will know a real leader during crisis. 4 of the government-owned employees have, Mr. Garley, look, the situation in Liberia is so pathetic that you just can't talk about it. 4 of the government-owned employees die mysteriously. The government have done nothing about it, Mr. Garley. Think about it. 4 of the government-owned employees, people who were in top position in the government, and nothing has been done. I'm only concerned about ordinary people, and I don't blame those families. Why it is true, we're not asking them to get into the streets. We're not asking them to begin a protest, but the people are waiting for the government. I listened to one of the mothers at St. Moses, where she said, we are calling on the Liberian National Police to do its part, to come in and act. Mr. Garley, the government have failed its people. The government have refused to adhere to the call of its people. The people will be left with no alternative. In Article 1 of the Liberian Constitution, it makes it clear that all power is inherent in the people. It said the people do have the right to alter or reform a government whenever it has to do with their happiness. Folks, it's not me, that's the law. So the people have the right. This is why when I hear sedition talking, I hope they're reading the laws. Because it says that when it has to do with the people's happiness, the people have the right to alter or reform the government. So you go and read and understand what they mean by that. So Mr. Garley, at this point, like I said, hoping on this government is like hoping on one of those miracles or those prophecies from some church for the past 5 years that have not come true. This government have demonstrated from the day one that they will never come true. They will never listen to your cry. The government don't care, Mr. Garley. The government have demonstrated its ineptitude, its inability to perform, its inability to deliver to its people. The government lacks credibility and integrity that we can trust them to do the right thing. Well, and I just ask the people.
Mr. Lobo, why it is true that the government is not doing things to your satisfaction or to the vast majority of the people in the country, you can't take law into your own hand. Where do you stand when people say they are going to burn properties belonging to those who they think believe kidnap the children?
Mr. Garley, you know my position. I believe in the rule of law. I will hope that those families will not use this opportunity to allow some hooligans to exploit their situations, because those families themselves might not be the ones that will really do harm, but it could be other people who could take advantage and use this opportunity to create more chaos in the country. Mr. Garley, notwithstanding, the government has a responsibility and the government must lead. The people's action is in response to their government failure to act. We must acknowledge that. The government must act. I think it is incumbent upon the government to do what is right. And we can question the people's action. The people's action will only be a retaliation to the government's action. So if the government act and does the right thing and ensure that the people's children are released, or ensure that justice has been served, that those involved are arrested or are brought to book, and give the people the confidence they need in the government, the people will listen. But when the people feel abandoned by the government, the Constitution says the people have the right to alter or reform a government when it has to do with their security and happiness. If the government that was elected to be for them, by them, is against them, that's not what the law said, Mr. Garley. So why does we respect the law? The law is clear.
It took the government 10 days to even think about dispatching armed police officers to Bond County. When the pressure came on the government from the family members of these missing children. Now others are saying this is just a mere bluff. Nothing is going to come out of this. Where do you stand, George?
Mr. Garley, we have a government that have demonstrated no interest in addressing the plight of the people. The reason why the people have no confidence in the government is because the government herself have not proven to be credible and responsible to the plight of its citizens. Mr. Garley, I don't want to sit here to relitigate the government's many mistakes and terrible performance over the years. The Liberian people have the right now. They know how their government operates. Mr. Garley, don't forget, this is a government that Mayor Jefferson Koji, in less than 5 years of this administration, was on his way to Banga. His car was involved in an accident. Somebody's mother was killed. Up to today's date, that investigation, they say if we reconstruct the Titanic, then we'll get the facts on that. Don't forget the late Ines from the central bank who expressed dissatisfaction on how the map-up exercise was being conducted by Minister Twe and the economic management team, died mysteriously. That investigation today, only God in heaven knows. They say when we find out what happened, then maybe like another day. So, Mr. Garley, the government have not demonstrated anything for which the people will have confidence in the government. Listen to the 4 auditors there. For the president of the republic, the man who is responsible to enforce the law, there's an ongoing investigation. He stands in his church and said that boyfriend and girlfriend. Think about it. The police takes a body from the crime scene and takes it to the funeral home without the consent of the family, Mr. Garley. What have the government done that the people should trust them? So the people no longer have confidence in their government, one which is a terrible thing for any country. As a leader, when the people have no confidence in you, your time is numbered. Your days are at its end time. And it's just a matter of time. George Weah and his folks will understand it. It's just a matter of time.
I spoke with the Minister of Internal Affairs a couple of days ago, and he said to me in Ashford, I am waiting for a report from the superintendent of Bond County. And after I have received the report, then I will come on your platform to speak to the Liberian people. I spoke with the Honorable Police Director this morning, inviting him to come so that we can hear his side of the story. And he said to me, I'm extremely busy now with meetings. When you call me and I have the time, I will come on. Just call him, phone rang, and went to the voicemail. Let's move on to the next segment. The ongoing investigation of the 4 dead auditors. What do you know?
Mr. Garley, we will speak from what we've read so far. Given what is out in the public, it is very, very clear, Mr. Garley. We have been informed, according to one of the articles published by the Front Page Africa, that Gifty, Mr. Gifty was assisting the guy who they found toward and dead with an audit that was being conducted at the central bank on Liberia's consolidated account. And they said they had discovered that money that should have been paid into that account by the central bank to LRA was not there. Mr. Garley, I want to walk things other ways. What we need to ask now is that the people are dead. I think it's about time we begin to ask, what did these 4 auditors know? What ties these 4 auditors together that they have to die? What did they uncover for which their lives have to be taken? Because that question is not being asked. We are just concerned about their death, how they died. That's true. But in investigating murder or homicide, the investigators, Mr. Garley, will always try to establish a motive. Because with the motive, it is easier to begin to find suspects or accomplices to the murder. What was discovered? What were they working on? Now, when you ask about what do I know, we know now that the government of the Republic of Liberia, according to the family, have been working tirelessly to discredit the profession of those 4 auditors. Can you imagine? The Minister of Information, Ledger Hureni, told the BBC that the people were not auditors, Mr. Garley. This is coming from the Minister of Information. Now, these folks were not working for the opposition to say you didn't know. They were working for the government that you speak for. Don't you think the most responsible thing to do as a government, the Minister of Information should have told us their titles, the agencies they work in, the lasting job they were performing, what they've done, the capacity they were serving in? But the fact that Ledger Hureni will deny that they were auditors, when we read all of them resume, all of them titles were auditors, this is one of the most pathetic things about the government. So at this particular point in time, Mr. Garley, I will only join other Liberians who are right now calling on the government and on our international community partners to ensure that independent pathologists are brought into the country to investigate the mysterious murder of those 4 auditors. Because for the government, Mr. Garley, if the Minister of Information would say that they were not auditors, I don't know how much more can the government do to ensure that it's a free, fair, impartial investigation is conducted. I don't think so. So what we know at this point, it is an unsolved matter, but we know that 4 auditors who were working in the government of the CDC, led by President George Weah, they were found dead mysteriously, and up to now, there's no investigation that provides us any kind of clue on what happened. So I will not speculate, but let me say this to you, Mr. Garley. What I will tell you is that these type of things that is happening in our country, creating an unsafe environment, an unsecure country for our people, is going to hurt more Liberians. You and I know, Mr. Garley, as a result of this government's action, many Liberians who used to go to Liberia come December, who will go to Liberia and will take $3,000-4,000, money that could have impacted the economy, have begun to cancel their plans, have begun to change their plans. It is going to hurt because some of those people, the money they take to Liberia, it do go in the pockets of many other Liberians who have not been absorbed by the government employment scheme. But now when you have those people refusing to go home because of insecurity, it is going to hurt more Liberians. There will be less Liberians willing to go home come this December as compared to previous year. And it's just going to keep on going down the drain because no one wants to take chance. In a country where people get murdered and nothing is done, the government don't care. These are critical times, Mr. Garley. How can you convince an investor to go to Liberia, knowing what we already know? If people who work for the government can get killed or die mysteriously, and the government comes out to discredit them and is doing nothing to ensure that there's there is an honest, credible, independent investigation conducted. I mean, Mr. Garley is terrible. And that's what I would say to you.
According to what we gather, SWAT went out to Calabash, his friends to hang out, and came and went in his room and fell and died. The third guy, Van Boto, I believe, according to the information, he was involved in a car accident. Gifty and Andrew bodies were discovered on Broad Street. I mean, how ironic that these people will be doing the same line of work for the government of Liberia, and they just mysteriously died. And up to now, we don't know what happened.
That is the unsolved mystery, Mr. Garley. And that is why I'm saying what was discovered by those people, what they knew, that someone, Mr. Garley, I'm strongly convinced that Gifty and the other guy, whatever audit they were working on, something was discovered and somebody didn't want it out. Very clear. They've worked in the government, it's been over 2 years.
Do you know that somebody? Because you do a lot of research, and you're a very bold guy. You talk here as it is. Do you know that somebody who didn't want that thing to come out?
Mr. Garley, you know I don't speculate. And you know when I say things, that's why I don't draw back on what I say. But I watched the first 48 years in America, and I would just say this to you, Mr. Garley. It is very, very clear that something is just not right. Something don't add up here. And the only way we can discover it now is to walk our way back. Let's go to see what they were doing. Let's find out what audit they were conducting. What did the audit reveal? Who were in the audit, or who did the audit reveal to be problem within that audit? Find those people, then you can be able to begin to question people. Right now, Mr. Garley, the people are dead, and I'm sorry to the bereaved families that your loved ones will be talked about in this manner, that the government they work for, that the country they protected, that they gave their services to, that government will send the Minister of Information to discredit them and reduce them because the government, I mean, Mr. Garley, if you look at the government's action, why would the Minister of Information discredit the people that they were not auditors? What was the motive for that? Why would the president stay in his church and say it was boyfriend and girlfriend? How did he arrive at that conclusion? What preliminary information he had to his disposal that gives him that inconclusive conclusion that it was boyfriend and girlfriend? Because if it was boyfriend and girlfriend, Mr. President, your party chairman told us how you appoint women. So if it's boyfriend and girlfriend, so why is yours different? So that argument, that statement you made, that makes sense. It just don't add up. We need to, Mr. Garley, the problem we don't have credible people in our country. We don't have a police that we can depend on. We don't have a justice system that works. If you can recall in 2018, I told the Liberians that President Weah's impact will be felt when he's gone. People take it for granted. I told you that the destruction that will be brought to Liberia by President Weah, Liberians will really feel it when he's gone. I told you he succeeded in his first 1 year by transforming the Minister of Information, the Ministry of Information to the Ministry of Misinformation, the Ministry of Justice to the Ministry of Injustice. So at this particular point in time, Mr. Garley, Liberians can only hope. But this should be a lesson for all Liberians. Those who sat down home, 1.2 million Liberians who sat down home and said they will not vote, you also contributed to this problem. Those of you who voted for him, you are accomplices to his problem. So whatever the country goes through, you have to take responsibility. Folks, when they say election do have consequences, these are the consequences they talk about. You get a government now that don't give a damn about people. Those are the consequences they were talking about. So, Mr. Garley, I don't want to speculate, but I'll tell this to you. It is a tough one.
The mysterious death of the 4 auditors, the missing of these 3 young men, and the reluctance of the security apparatus to solve crimes. If you were to tell us 1 or 2 good things that this government is doing, what would it be?
To solve crimes?
No, I mean,
like government performance?
Yeah, in the right direction. What would it be? What is Civil 7 getting paid or
no, nothing. The government is entertaining few Liberians at our headquarters. Maybe you can say that. The government hold rally at our party headquarters. Let me say this, Mr. Garley. I am not one of those guys who settle for less. I know what government responsibility is. I know what the function of the office of the presidency means. All right? President, we do have special operation funds. That's money the president can use to undertake projects on his own if he wants to. President, we have been able to appropriate money through the legislature for consultancy in the budget. Those are excess waste of public resources. So I'm not going to sit there and say, because the president went and dedicated Ellen Johnson Sirleaf birthday gift market and Nime the 14th military market. Is that what I should be thankful for? You build a market where people can go to the market, where people today are broke. Consumer spending is down. People who work don't get paid. How do they go to the market? You think that's what I'm supposed to celebrate? No, Mr. Garley, I'm not one of those guys who celebrate the Minister of Public Works for showing up to inspect an ongoing construction on the road. That is his job. He's not doing me a favor. I can't celebrate that. That is a responsibility. You either do it or you don't. If you can't do it, leave. Let other people who can do it come on. So I can't go celebrate.
You are very critical with this government when it comes to employees getting their pay. I listened to you today and you say employees have not gotten paid over a year. Is that true?
I've been told that water and sewer, 11 months. Let us use the basic math, Mr. Garley. You can record when C.C. Crawford Brown was appointed as the National Housing Authority boss. You remember there were some employees who staged a protest that they had gone 11 months without being paid. And Madam C.C. Crawford Brown wrote a communication to them and said that they were not even being captured in the 2019-2020 budget. Now, basic math, let's just be hypothetical for once and say, you owe the man 11 months. If he's not being captured in the next 1 year budget, which is another 12 months, that's a fiscal cycle. Now, how many months they've gone without being paid? Don't quote me, Mr. Garley. We learned that employees at the national legislature, their Liberian dollar salary, they have not gotten it for almost 11 plus months. Mr. Garley, where is it?
Well,
we
Mr.
Lobo,
when you heard about employees not being paid for over 11 months, have you made some type of call as to where they are now in terms of the disbursement of salary? Because I made a call today and I'm told that employees are only owed for October. And as a matter of fact, on the 15th of every month, they begin the disbursement of employee salaries. Okay. So if you said today that employees have not gotten paid for over a year, so I mean, when the last time did you get in touch with these people?
Let me say this to you, Mr. Garley. I spoke to a friend of mine who works at Liberian Water and Sewer. He made it very clear. I will not call his name, but he's a sign. I didn't even know that Water and Sewer have a annual station somewhere in Sinka. He said that way he's a sign. And he made it very clear. He said, George, we've gone over 8 months without being paid. The Roberts International Airport employees have not been paid over more than 5 months, some area depending on what ministry. You recall last month or 2 months ago, it was brought up in the Liberian legislature by Vani Shema that people in Cape Mount, that employees in the hinterland, up countries, have gone 9 months without being paid. And the government said it was because of the process of clearing out ghost lists that she initiated. So many of them could not come to verify. But Mr. Garley, let's go to what happened at the Temple of Justice when we saw the employees laying before the Chief Justice car. What did those employees say? How long did they say they've gone without being paid? So I'm not here to go back and forth. You do your own math. All you need to do, play the video from Temple of Justice. Listen to the employees, what they said. How long they've gone without being paid. And you do, and the person who you spoke to, who told you they've only been owed for October, that's not true, Mr. Garley. We need to be real to ourselves.
But we're trying to get the civil servant boss on here to clarify this information, because clearly there was civil servant that was in the vehicle today. When I placed that call, I said, when was the last time you got paid? They said, well, they only owe us for October. As a matter of fact, on the 15th of every month, you know, we are getting disbursement in terms of our salaries.
So let me ask you, Mr. Garley, are we saying that the protests that were staged at the Temple of Justice, was it because they were being paid? Was the protest wrong? Did you follow the protest at Temple of Justice?
Let me put that question back to you. Are they continuing the protest now?
Because Councillor Brad Brown Bull intervened, and I learned that they will be given 4 months upfront, and then there will be an arrangement for their leftover salary. Mr. Garley, when we talk about payments, right? Let's look at this government. We recalled a few months ago that employees of the waterway sanitation projects for the coastal line, you remember with Zoga Wilson, where they said, we saw that protest, that they had gone for over 11 months and were not being paid. So the issue of employees not being paid under this government, Mr. Garley, this is not the first time. Just recently, until an arrangement was reached with the health workers, about a month or so ago, we saw health workers demonstrating for their pay. So for us to sit here today and pretend like it's a lie, one thing I would say this, Mr. Garley, the government will do what it has to do and say what she wants to say. Now, if the government believes that our people have been paid, getting paid, what I want to say to many of you, like you who was an investigative journalist, is then the question should be, why is it recently that the Ministry of Health, the Minister of Finance, the health workers say you owe them $8 million? What is it if they have been paid? How did you arrive at owing health workers $8 million? Let's go to capital billing. Let's go to the protest at the Temple of Justice. Mr. Garley, the issue of salary is an ongoing thing with this government. And I'll say this to you real clear. I don't work for the government. We wake up in the morning, we see these protests in Liberia every other day. If it is not from this ministry, it is that ministry. If it is not from this ministry, it is that ministry. So if they were truly being paid as being said by the government officials, I don't think we'll have those situations. And that's all I would say to that.
Okay.
So the government can say what they want to say.
Well, I'm not a spokesman for the government, but like I said in the past, you know, if the government does bad things, we'll talk about them. If we see that everywhere we think the government is doing well, we'll also talk about them. So those who spend their time on attacking us that claim to represent the government, these are the kind of things they're supposed to be saying or talking about. Now, George, you are going to Liberia. They drive educational initiative in the diaspora. What are they doing to facilitate your travel to Liberia? As you know now, the way things stand in our country, security is very vital. Your accommodation, your security, and things like those. What are they doing? You know, what are some of the plans you have in this regard?
Mr. Garley, I want to say thank you for that question. First and foremost, I want to say thanks to those Liberians who've taken up from their basic time and from the little they have to contribute to our draft initiative. As you notice, I just posted the link on there. Mr. Garley, I launched an initiative to go to Liberia to engage in a massive civic education initiative. The reason for this civic education initiative, Mr. Garley, is to talk to our people on the importance of dual citizenship, the benefits, the demerits of it, the merits and demerits. Because what is happening in Liberia, people have used dual citizenship as an issue now for their political survival. Those who believe that Liberians in the diaspora are of a threat to their existence or to their job security, dual citizenship is the only way forward. Dual citizenship is not hurting any country in Africa that I know of. We can take a look at the Cote d'Ivoire that is next door. We can take a look at Seychelles. We can look at Mauritius. We can look at the Rwanda. We can look at Nigeria. We can look at the Ghana. We can look at Senegal. Dual citizenship is not creating no harm for those countries. And a country like Liberia, funded by free slaves, I strongly believe that Liberians at this particular point in time need to understand what is at stake. The issue of dual citizenship that is being brought out under Proposition 1. I think Liberians need to vote no, and this is the reason why I have decided that I have to go to Liberia to engage our people and talk to them about what is at stake. And because of that, Mr. Garley, some Liberians have been very responsive with supporting our efforts. We raised over $4,000 as we speak. We set up an initial target of $10,000. You brought up a brilliant point on the issue of security, Mr. Garley. Security is a paramount concern with the recent travel warning being issued by the U.S. government. But we've decided, Mr. Garley, here's where I stand, and you know this. I could have gone to Liberia to campaign for the CPP, but I chose not to. Mr. Garley, at some point in time in life, a man must decide to provide services or make money. And I've decided that this time around, I want to provide services than staying in America and making money, because I could make money while being here. But I've decided to risk everything and go to Liberia with all the many mysterious death, high level of insecurity, with disregarding the travel warnings, and I will go to Liberia. So I will do what it takes.
We will meet in Liberia too, because I'm going to Liberia despite the warnings. Listen, this is the only country we have, George, and we can't just sit on the outside looking. And that's one of the reasons why I'm glad that 5 radio stations have decided to relay our program, and that's what I would not allow people to talk the way they used to talk, because we have kids at home. People back home are not used to certain way of talking, you know. And I'm just so glad the Top FM in the Southeast, 105.3, 104.1, Live FM, 101.5, Joy, 95.5, or Super. Want to say a big thank you for the collaboration. But at this time, George, we want to hear from the audience. So why don't we go to the telephone lines, pick up a few calls, then we'll come back to you.
Hold on 1 second. I want to ensure that I have a pen. Can you flip me? Just flip me off. Maybe you can flip me off. Let me grab a pen real quick.
Okay. Once again, the telephone number to call is 248-979-1718 is the number to call. There's a new product in Liberia called TipMe. And TipMe is just one of the easier ways of going to shopping, do your grocery shopping. You can pay your employees' salaries for those of you that have small businesses. And you can also buy your bag of rice and oil. You can buy your LEC credit through TipMe. And the way it works for those of us in the diaspora, just go to tipmeliberia.com. If you're coming in from your smartphone, click on the 3 bars to your left, and then it brings you to another page. At the very bottom, you will see a shaded blue page named Top Up Center. When you click on the Top Up Center, then the various coupons and the vouchers become available to you, where you can, if you want to send a $50, you add $50 to your card, and it costs you $3 just to send $50 to Liberia. I beg your pardon, it costs you $3 to send $100 to Liberia using TipMe. For $100, it costs you $3. And they have this promotion going on now that they have the motorbike agents. So, for example, you don't have to wait for the bank to be open. They say, oh, the bank is closed, or no bank opens on the Sunday. You call Tipman, or you go to one of the little cash locations, and the back rider will actually go to your home and give you your cash. In exchange, you give him
Oh,
$1
wow.
for the service fee. So Tip Me is the next big thing, not only for Liberia. By the end, as we begin next month, Tip Me will be in all 15 counties. So try
Oh,
Tip Me. Tip Me is in fact the next big thing. If you think I'm joking, just log on to tipmeliberia.com for more information. All right. I want to go back to our man now, George Lobo. Georgie is here, but George want to take this call. You
go
know what?
for it.
Fine. All right. Hello, caller. Tell us your name and where do you join us from tonight? George Lobo. Georgie is here, but George want to take this call. Mr. Anthony Johnson, you're live on the radio. Hello, caller. Tell us your name and where do you join us from tonight? Mr. Anthony Johnson, you're live on the radio.
What are you talking to? Ask for Anthony Gibson.
Anthony, I'm sorry. I beg your pardon, my brother. Go ahead. You're live on the radio.
Okay.
Go ahead. Ask a question, please.
Hey, ASHFORD, good evening. How are you doing?
Hello, my brother. Too blessed to
Yeah.
be stressed. It's been a long time.
It's been a long time. Yeah. Yeah. I guess I really admire his enthusiasm and his attitude that he's about to go back to Liberia to make sure to give back to his country. It's a perfect and great idea. And I also want to congratulate you with the idea of dual citizenship. Dual citizenship is that move is a perfect and good move because in the diaspora we have a lots and lots of Liberians.
Go ahead, Anthony. Do not listen to the receiver. Just speak through the receiver. Speak through the phone.
Yeah, but can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now. Yes.
Are you sure?
There's a little delay, so just continue speaking, please. Do not listen to the speakers or the receiver, Gibson, please. Oh, Gibson.
Yes. Like I say, you have a lot and lots of Liberians who will willingly want to return to Liberia.
Do not listen to the receiver.
And yeah, I'm going. I'm doing it. Yeah. Right.
You might just want to turn the receiver down to avoid the distraction, please.
Right. I'm saying that. I say, therefore, I mean, in the process of doing that, I'm not. Sitting for this video. Yeah, like I said, you have a bunch of Liberians.
Okay, I'm sorry, Anthony. You have to probably master this because we can't keep holding on. We have Aliyu on the line. Hello, Aliyu. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, ASHFORD, thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Great show, great program. And I'm very happy for you. The way you bring the information to the people, you bring the newsmakers themselves to the people. We hear from the horse's mouth. It is not a lot of news outlet that have the ability to do that. Thank you for your contribution, first of all, to the society called Liberia. Question the guy in the studio there. It is important for us to speak against ill in society, but let us be a little bit more factual. There are times that I acknowledge and appreciate his exposés, but there are also times that they're just based on something. The water and sewer issue about 11 months and then to 8 months area. And I find out actually that I was told that water and sewer owe its employee for only the month of October. That's what I was also told on the phone just this evening. So let us make sure to verify what we are saying to the Liberian people. But look, I've been warned myself by some American friends. I don't know how they got information from Liberia. I had taken a leave from my job to go to West Africa for a few days. And these guys are telling me on my job, man, you're going to Liberia? We're hearing about Liberia. Liberia has a terrible image now. A terrible image, as far I'm telling you. And for George Weah to sit so firmly, as if nothing. You know what really disgusts me these few days? This guy called the Natana McGill. He had a press conference on Friday. Was that I think on Friday or so, or Monday? And this guy was talking something entirely different. He was talking about George Weah being in office for 2 terms, and they were going to be there up for another 6 years after this, or 5 years after the first 6 years, and all of that stuff. As for this guy was not talking about the very important professional Liberian people that were murdered in recent times. He never made mention of those people and refused to even talk about those people. These three young men that we're talking about, that's Moses and other people allegedly, captured or kidnapped, these guys are not even discussing that. I listened to Jefferson Koji and the man who is trying to become senator for Maserati County. What about name? T5. These guys are campaigning. They're not even discussing the issue. Why don't you ask this guy called Askara Gray, who is always talking whenever someone says something to and about George Weah, he comes out immediately. How many people have heard anything from Askara Gray? But I want to also ask for you, I'm more connected with these people than I do. What happened to Sandra Johnson? Sandra Johnson has been crying foul about trucking in Bombay County. Has Sandra Johnson said anything about one of his citizens that is involved into this thing? The Shafa boy that we're talking about, they come from that Bombay County area. So what is the opposition doing? What is their position in this thing? It is crazy. It's crazy that Afro-American and white Americans are pretty much aware, fully cognizant of the danger currently engulfing Liberia, and the president, the police, or whoever the police director is, and all of these guys really don't care. Do they really understand what's going on? I really can't compose myself to say a lot. As well, I'm kind of frustrated, but thank you so much for having me.
Aliyu, just so you know, for the record, I am not connected to them. My profession is connected to them. So I'm on the outside looking just how you're doing. Okay?
That's what I mean. I'm not saying you are in their team.
Thank you, Aliyu. Right. We have Moses on the line. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, ASHFORD. I'm going to be very quick here. I think you kind of struck on my question, the concern I have for George. But I want to be openly here that I commend George's effort and his large effort of wanting to educate our people. I think these are reasonable calls that we can agree on, all of us to support. And so that being said, George will be hearing from you by the weekend about my contribution towards this effort. I really commend that. I think it's a good idea, very brilliant idea. So I will be reaching out to him. I know he reached out to me the other day. I will be reaching back out to him. But I'm just frustrated just to add on what brother Aliyu was saying. Where does George stand in terms of the opposition's role concerning Mr. Blamo's thing on here? And they were requesting logistics. What can you mean that day? What am I coming here? Wow. Making noise.
Hold on 1 minute. Hold on a minute, Moses. My brother with the 2772 number, please understand that somebody is speaking and put your phone on mute, please. Can you please mute your phone, sir? Go ahead, Moses.
Yes, I said these are moments opposition can use to not only show solidarity to the family, but to show to the Liberian people that it's here. But we are yet to hear from the opposition in terms of logistics for these 4 Liberian men or children, however term you want to term them, these 4 Liberians. So what is George's position? He's a supporter of the CP and the opposition political parties. What is his position? What is their position to move forward? And also, what is the plan and the strategy? I'll go back to this question again. In terms of financial support from the opposition when it comes to Darius Below and other opposition candidates that they've brought up to the ballot. That would say I want to say thank you, and we'll continue to follow the show.
Okay, thank you, Moses. We have one more caller before we go back to you, George. Please unmute your phone, sir. 2772. Tell us your name and where do you join us from tonight?
Okay, I'm Jerry S. Ferguson. I'm calling from Northern Ontario.
Welcome to the show. You're live on the radio.
Okay, thanks a lot, Mr. Ashford, for giving me this opportunity. Mr. Ashford, the first thing is that I want to know that you are very interested and your show is doing very well.
Thank you.
And so, you know that as you ask your question gave birth to concern. So therefore, you gave the follower knowledge to ask questions. So the time that are always given us is very limited. That is my first concern with you.
Do you also realize that there are a lot of other people that want to weigh in as well? So I mean, within 2 minutes, if you cannot express what it is that you want to express, it makes it difficult for everybody, you know.
Okay, I will go right ahead. Mr. Lobo, my first concern is to know whether you continue your trip on the referendum in December. Secondly, what if ECOWAS done a show the CPP and the opposition party the request to make sure that the voter roll is reshuffled or whatsoever you call it? Thirdly, on the death of this guy, I want the CPP to exercise extra emphasis on this because that is our Liberian system. We consider issues as boiling water. It comes up a boil and it goes dry. I want the CPP to implicate themselves and the COP or whosoever to make sure that there will be clarity made on what's going on in that bomb mine area. Because I know that the government is playing a game that it will boil and it will dry down. I don't want these young guys just to go that way. It has been established that they are not dead. They are being tied somewhere to have their blood shot in 3 days, according to information that I got live from Mr. Blamo. So please, I'm asking Lobo as a member of the CTP or whatever to please exercise whatsoever authority they have to make sure that Mr. Moses is going to be political by now. He's not going to be a free man because he's accused of murder. So he's not going to be free. So these are my view for tonight, Mr. Ashford. Thank you very much, and I hope you continue a good job.
Mr. Lobo.
Yeah, Ashford, there's a lot there to unpack. I want to first and foremost begin by saying thanks to Anthony Gibson, who applauded the move for me to decide to go to Liberia. I want to thank him very much. I also want to thank Aliu. Aliu raised a great question. He said, what is the opposition doing about what is going on in the country? Let me be very clear with you. The opposition position is very, very clear. We can highlight and hold government feet to the fire in ensuring that the right thing is done. The opposition do not have the constitutional authority to ensure that justice is served, but we can mount the necessary pressure by bringing these things to the forefront and holding government feet to the fire. Now, the CPP have done it, and we continue to engage with written letters. I also want to be very clear, Mr. Garley. I believe in the chain of command. The CPP consists of 4 political parties. I'm a member of the Unity Party, so therefore I am a member of the CPP. But I am not the official spokesman of the CPP. So I think sometimes some of these questions that get asked, they are prudent, they are great questions, but I think the CPP spokesman should be the one to articulate this position. Having said that, when I speak on these issues, it's the result of my involvement as a Liberian and as a member of the opposition. And I want to make that very, very clear. Now, Mr. Garley, you know the CPP position. Many Liberians have accused the CPP and say they're not too forceful, but the CPP will not operate the way you want them to. Should they be heavily involved? Absolutely. Should they ensure that the government is held accountable to ensuring that people's kids are safe and are secure? Definitely. Is that something that the CPP should speak to? I strongly believe they need to. So maybe what we can do, all of us, is to call on our leaders within the CPP that we want to see more done. And I can assure you that that is something I have been doing and I will continue to do. but that does not mean that I'm the leader of the CPP. No, the CPP leadership will decide on how to speak about these issues and what to do. So the CPP is concerned, my dear friend and brother Aliu. If you look at what the CPP wrote on their proposal, don't forget, the CPP have been heavily engaged. We've made recommendations to the government from the onset of this government as it relates to growing the economy. We've made policy recommendations, fiscal and monetary policy recommendations to the government. So we've always been out there, but we will continue to do more. I know the Liberian people want to see this combative opposition. And it's sad that this particular opposition, which claims to be a mature and professional and disciplined, well-structured opposition, you are now going to see some of what you saw the CDC doing. And I think that is a basis upon which what many people believe that these things are not our concern. No, we all live in that period. Those leaders are concerned. If they are mysterious death, they themselves know that it could be any of them. Are very much engaged. But I guess it's because people are not seeing that combative effort they saw from the CDC, so they believe that the CPP is weak. Folks, there are different approaches to things. And the CPP wants to ensure that whatever we do, it is methodical, it is well thought through, and it is organized and structured. So should they be? Definitely they will. I want to also say in this manner, the CPP have brought on great lawyers who are currently working with them. So when lawyers get involved, the process is different. The CPP wants to ensure when you are opposition folks, they leverage the ruling party have, you don't have it. You don't have room for mistakes. There's very limited opportunities for errors. The ruling party can make mistakes and get it corrected along the way. The opposition, no, it don't happen for you. You make mistakes, the government will make you pay for it. And so sometimes you people need to be understanding of some of these things. So you can't just see the CPP the way you want them to, the way you want to see them. Now let me get to Moses, I want to say thank you very much for your commitment to supporting the initiative. I think I listened to him the other day. He said, he also struck that point that, George, that was a great thing. Thank you very much, Moses. You asked about our position. My position. Yes, my position, Moses. My position is very, very clear. I don't support ritualistic killing. I don't support what is happening in Liberia. I don't support the consistent violation of the rule of law in our country. I don't support it. Because I strongly believe that the way in which our other friends who are in Liberia that are not employed will have an opportunity to work and earn income is by ensuring that the government create a stable environment. That can happen with what is going on happening. You cannot secure a stable and peaceful environment when there's no rule of law, when there's total breakdown of the systems. So that is not to my taste. That is my position. I've condemned it, and I strongly believe that people's rights must be protected. The government have a responsibility to its citizens. And it's unfortunate that the government have not lived up to those expectations. And that is why I stand on it. Now, on the issue of the CPP, I definitely can say to you, I do speak to hierarchies within the CPP. And their position is very, very clear on a lot of things. You have to also understand, if the CPP is going to present herself as the alternative, one thing many of us don't understand, the CPP is not only accountable to the Liberians in Liberia, the CPP also must ensure that our international partners and regional leaders can trust their ability to lead. So it is not one way. These guys have been placed in some of the most difficult positions. One thing what many of you Liberians want to see is a CPP that says, day after tomorrow protest. That is what you will see and say the CPP is, we can't do that. We will call our people to the streets when we feel we want to. We suspended a protest because we made demands. And once those demands have begun to be addressed, we suspended the protest. So Moses, this is my position. And yesterday, I listened to Mariam Kekula on Spoon TV, who happens to be a hierarchy of the CPP. And she strikes the same position, that the CPP is non-combative, but they are involved. They are speaking to our international partners, our regional leaders. So the CPP cannot assure regional. And let me say this to you, fellow Liberians, Mr. Garley. You need to understand if you are a Liberian. ECOWAS today have zero appetite for any violence in Liberia. ECOWAS have given up everything to Liberia. Those West African countries have really sacrificed for Liberia. We just can't be that country with less than 5 million people that just can't get it right, that just can't solve our problems. That every time we have to involve people, we need to graduate from that stage now. We need to begin to find other opportunities, other ways in which we can address our country's problem. Nigeria contributed more money to peacekeeping operation in that country. Nigerians pay with their life. Senegalese pay with their life. And so what the CPP leadership look at, the level of instability in the West African region, and these guys are saying, what is the most possible alternative route we can take to ensure we get what we want without creating a situation that will take this country to a different path? Because I will tell you today, folks, there are some seditionists who are just sitting. They're only waiting for the CPP to get in the street so they themselves can get in the street to express their disagreement with their own government. We are not going down that path. And I want to say, folks, please, give the CPP a chance. The CPP came together. These are 4 independent political parties. You can't expect this relationship to be all rosy. Some of you are married. You know what you go through in your own homes. It is just 2 persons. What about 4 different political parties that have different ideology? I think the standard, look, the standard we've set for the CPP, if we reduce it by 40% and set that standard for the CDC government, the ruling coalition, I think Liberians will do better than they are doing today. So this is a fair analysis. Let's give those leaders the chance. They came together. They are making sacrifices. All of them, the Alexander Cummings, the Joseph Boyka, the Ure, and the Yombly. Let's give them the chance and the support. But those of us who come from the CPP, we are some of those people who make condescending statements about them. We make those comments that undermine and disrespect the leadership. That is not how we will build a vibrant society. Folks, I want to say to you, their position is resolved. They will continue to hold the government feet to the fire. Mose asked about one important thing today. What is the CPP position on financial support for Abraham Darius DeLong and other CPP candidates, Mr. Garley? Once again, like I said, I am not the CPP spokesman. One recommendation that I made a few months ago was that there was a need to set up a CPP strategic team, Mr. Garley. The strategic team was going to be tasked with the responsibility of setting up opportunities to raise funds and also opportunities to be able to move resources where it is needed most based on needs. Now, in as much as I'm not part of that, I don't want to speak to that because I don't know what they're doing. I won't mislead people. I won't misinform you on that. But I'm hoping that there's some kind of plan in place. Mr. DeLong have been campaigning vigorously. I think they all individually have set up their own platform to raise funds. And so I think that's where it is because some parties are giving more to their candidates. If they have a plan, definitely that is the best thing. Mose, I do agree with you. Now, let me come to the last caller.
And George, just before you go to the last caller from Canada, I just wanted to set something straight here that Moses was not accused by the government. According to Mr. Conan that appeared last night on the show, Mr. Moses remains a person of interest because according to him, the government don't want to arrest him and release him in 48 hours. So they are gathering the facts before they can really come up with arrest or accusation, just to put it out there. But go ahead and respond to him.
Okay, so the caller from Canada, he asked about my trip, if it's going to still remain on the referendum. My answer is yes, yes, and yes. Mr. Garley, I began this conversation by saying one of the reasons why you have not seen me actively engaged in campaigning for CPP candidates is on the basis of the issue of referendum. I know Liberians, if they were seeing me out every day marketing a specific candidate, the next thing would have been, George, I've launched this program to go to Liberia to campaign for the CPP. And on the basis of that, I've decided that this is not what I want to do now. Dual citizenship is very important, which I believe it could play a pivotal and significant role in the development of our country. And I feel that when it's under attack, that I go to Liberia to engage our people, to educate them on the importance of what dual citizenship stands for, especially as it relates to Proposition 1, which is dual citizenship with restrictions. That is my position. So my answer is yes on that. I'm committed to that project. I am going to Liberia. I am continuing to engage with people on the ground, and I'm calling on many Liberians around the world, Liberians in the diaspora, to please join these efforts. With all the security concerns that many of you have, with all the logistic needs that we have on the ground, we are committed to ensuring that we reach as many Liberians as possible and educate and inform our people on why dual citizenship is important and why there's a need to strike down Proposition 1. Now, he also asks is what is ECOWAS doing to ensure that the VRO is cleaned up? To answer that question, this morning, for my dear brother, there was a team of data analysts that arrived in the country from UNDP and that of ECOWAS. They are working with the National Elections Commission to ensure that the voter registry roll is clean, and that is what we asked for, and we are glad that we got that done. He also asked about what is the CPP doing to make Moses hell or see Moses behind bar. Now you must understand, the CPP that markets itself as a better alternative cannot be the same CPP who will begin to jump to conclusion, who will begin to hold people accountable, who will begin to say people are found guilty before proving innocent. We can't do that. The CPP must ensure that the rule of law exists. The CPP will hold all its facts founding right now. What we will say is the CPP will demand that there is a credible investigation conducted, and that will make sure. But we must not forget, if we are going to be the better alternative, if we are going to be the people of the rule of law, if we are going to be the one that create a stable environment for all Liberians to coexist, we must be an alternative that respect and defend and protect the Constitution. So that means every single person, when accused, is presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond all reasonable doubt. That is our position. Thank you, Mr. Garley.
Okay, we're going to go back to the telephone line, but folks, if you're just joining us, this is ASHFORD GARLEY Live via BRIDGERADIO Africa. We're also on our YouTube channel as well. Just go on YouTube and type in BRIDGERADIO Africa, and voila, just like that, you will see the faces of George Lobo and ASHFORD GARLEY. I want to say a big thank you also to Top FM 105.3 in Zreddu Grand Jide County and Top Television. I want to say a big thank you to 104.1 in Marufa, Liberia, 101.5 George FM, 95.5 Super FM, and Channel 10 Super Television. We have the last 4 digits of your number. Let's see what we have here now. Ladies and gentlemen, this is where you want to be on the Wednesday night. The last 4 digits, 6553. Please tell us your name. $6553. Please tell us your name. Hello, caller. 6553. Tell us your name, please. Okay. 6296. Please tell us your name.
My name is James, and I call from Texas.
Welcome to the show. You're live on the radio. Go ahead and ask your question.
Thank you so much. George Lobo, my question is this. How can we reconcile with the CPP decision that they have taken in terms of the protest they announced previously and looking at the decision with the international community and where we stand for right now. The reason for which I ask this question, because it's the CPP leadership trying to tell us that because of their own interest, if this is why they schedule a protest, because there were a lot of things that are happening in the country that demanded protests. And the leadership of the CPP, they say some panic and they look at these things to happen. But because it has to do with the voter vote, and it has to do with them coming to power, because if that voter vote will not be clean, they will not get the power they want, and they decided to stand tall. And now international community have come up and look at the decision that international community have taken in every one of our interests. But there are a lot of things that have been happening in the country that needed to be addressed. And if the leadership of the CPP could have stood up, the international community could have come in. Look at our people are dying. Who are they coming to rule tomorrow? When everybody really die in the country, when people killing people and the CDC-led government cannot take any action, so who are those people who want to lead tomorrow? That is my question. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. I want to go to Atlanta, Georgia, where Mr. Amos George, one of our big brothers, is on the line now. Amos, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ashford, and good evening to Mr. George Lobo. John, I got a question for you. You were on this program the last time, and you made a comment to people who are referring to the opposition being weak. If I got you clear that night, you said that those people who complain about the opposition being weak, they can go to other political parties. If the opposition is weak, there are several political parties in Liberia they can go to join. And my question to you, do you still stand by that statement? And if so, if you stand by that statement, don't you think that is an insult to other Liberians who are looking at CPP as an alternative? Second, you talk about the CPP is a different organization. They don't want to go down the path. I see what they were doing, putting people in the street every now and then. But I want to ask you, I do not believe in violence, but what I believe in, all what is happening in Liberia, one, like the referendum, it's clear to say that those should not be just one on the paper. Second, it says the law says that there should be 1 year of education to inform the people to create that awareness. And none of those things has taken place. And maybe I might be wrong. I have not seen the opposition to issue a press statement calling on government that these are the things required by the Constitution. So we're asking to do it. Maybe because you have an inside, you for inside, so maybe you can tell me. And let us look at the recent pronouncement by CDC to take government officials to put them on the campaign, which of course it is wrong. But I did not hear any pushback from the opposition. So my question to you, because if people don't hear anything and they say the CDC is weak, so that gives you the right to say, oh, they can join other political parties?
Thank you. That's the voice of Amos George from Atlanta, Georgia. Folks, thank you so much if you're just joining us. This is ASHFORD GARLEY Live, and we are coming to you from BRIDGERADIO Africa. We're also live on 104.1 FM in Monrovia. We're live on 101.5 George FM. We're live on Super 95.5. We're live on Top FM 105.3 in Georgia, Grand Juda County, and the station in Grand Juda covers the entire southeast, including parts of Nimba. Back to you, Mr. Lobo.
Let me begin first and foremost once again and by answering James's question. I want to thank all of you who called. James actually said, how can we reconcile the CPP decision with regards to canceling the protest, suspending the protest? James, is a very simple thing. the CPP made series of demands. They were in order. One of the primary issue that was before them was being raised was the issue of trucking, illegal registration, influx of names on the voter registry roll. We must not forget that most of the political parties that are in the CPP today had gone to the courts in 2017 after the election, and there was amended, which the Supreme Court instructed the National Elections Commission to ensure that there is a clean voter registry roll. The Supreme Court did not say that there were not irregularities, there was not improprieties, but it stated that what happened was not enough to have altered the elections results. They admitted that, yeah, there were irregularities. So we want to take corrective measures, corrective steps to ensuring that every Liberian who cast their vote come December 8th, that person was registered in that precinct and that person was a legitimate citizen to vote. That is the position. Now, I know you said, because we want to take power. That is not true. But you must understand, we list series of demands. Once there's an attempt being made to addressing those demands, I think it is prudent, it is smart for leadership to say, hold on one second. Let's take it one step at a time as these demands are being addressed. So the CPP did not call off the protest. They suspended the protest, and they said because the issue is being made very, very clear. It was because of the CPP demand that prompted the Liberian government to call on ECOWAS and invite the international community to come in to get that done. Now we have international experts from ECOWAS and UNDP. So I think we must employ the CPP leadership for their stand. Now, on the issue of, from my senior brother of Moses, George from Georgia, he asked if I still believe my statement. You see, Moses, it is easier to take parts of my statement. Here's what happened, and here's what I said, the context in which I spoke. People have made a series of claims about the opposition. They don't see it as an alternative. Let me say this to you, Moses. If you want to be part of an organization, it is never going to always be perfect, but you go there and make it work. You go there with your ideas and make it work. But you cannot be within the organization. You are doing nothing to improve it, but continue to undermine it and bring it to public disrepute. No organization that I know of will want a member of such a kind, because you are there because you believe in them. If you don't believe in them, the question is very simple. Why are you there? And the reason when I say those of us who complain, I know I try not to compare America with Liberia. But if we were to just take a sneak peek for those of us here, after elections, how active do you see the opposition party in the United States? Except for their members in Congress. When there's meeting, you see them. Now, the CPP have not done that. The CPP have been on this government. You can record multiple times Chairman Comey have had press conferences. Even when Benedict Ure was the chairman, the CPP have made policy prescription recommendations. So, folks, let me say this to you. Liberia is a multi-party political system. And this is what I'm saying. When you have other people that want to come to the CPP, and you have members within the CPP who are constantly denigrating the party, the CPP, who are constantly insulting the leadership decision of the CPP, then what are you doing for them? Are you helping them or hurting them? You cannot be helping the CPP by doing what you're doing every day, by bad-mouthing the leadership, by criticizing their judgment, by attacking the decisions they make. That is not how it works, because your individual opinion never supersedes the overall objective of the organization. I have my own opinion. I have my individual opinion about the entire CPP, that if some of you today, did I support the whole CPP from the beginning? No. But you know what? I trust my party. I trust my political leader. And as a result of that, that is what I adhere to. My individual view don't supersede that. And my point is simple. You're there because you believe in them. But you cannot continue to say you are there, you are proud of them, when you are constantly disgracing them, insulting them, making condescending statement about the organization. It is like a man who is married to a woman who comes out and says she can't cook, she don't clean up. The next question will be, why are you with her? It is very simple. So that decision is not a big of a deal. You believe the woman is now a horse material, it's not a wife material. Anybody will ask you then, why are you still with her? Because it does not make sense for you to still be with her and you are out there every day making statements about her. And that is what is happening. And that is the context in which I was speaking to those who were constantly attacking and insulting the CPP. And let me say this to you. You have the constitutional right. There are over 20 political parties in Liberia. That is very, very clear. I'm very much sure that people within the CPP, they are not strangers. You want to act like you don't know what I'm talking about? Jeremiah Slunter just joined the CDC. He felt that it was not right. He went there, right? George Temple left the Unity Party and went to the CDC. So am I wrong for saying it? If you don't believe it works for you here, then you join the other side. If you believe that the current leadership of the CPP views are not in line with what you stand for and what you want, then you make a decision. But what I'm saying, as long as you decide to be there, then you cannot be undermining and bringing them to public disrepute. Because if you are who is within, you are the one constantly attacking and insulting your leaders, what do you expect us, the people outside, to do to them? Do you expect them to respect the leadership? That's not how institutions are built, sir. So that was my position. Let me come to the issue of, you say the law states that they need 1 year to educate our people on the issue of the referendum. I totally agree with you, Moses George. That is completely true. One of the reasons why you see I decided to go to Liberia on this issue of Proposition 1, because the court made it very clear that they should educate the people 1 year before any kind of referendum could be held. That have not been done, and I don't know why is the government trying to shove it down the people's throat, but it is an intention to secure a 2 5-year term for George Weah. The reason why you heard Nathaniel McGill was making noise, their strategy is that if they secure a 2 5-year term, they can get ruthless. That means instead of 12, they are looking at 16 years in power. That is the noise they are making. But if our people are not smart to vote no against this proposition, if you gave George Weah 2 5-year term, George could get a lot more ruthless than he is right now. George, that is their strategy. The president, His Excellency, that's what I'm talking about.
Okay, George, we are almost out of time. We have about 6 minutes now. Before we leave, I just want you to touch on the proposition number 1, the one that talks about the dual citizenship. And number 1. Number 2, the people are saying, just going through some of the comments here, so you have no relevance in Liberia. You don't know anything about Liberian politics. Tell us about your strength as it relates to Liberian politics, and what do you bring to the table? So you are just a mad talk show guy like that gets on Facebook and just talk gibberish. Why don't you think the criticism is valid?
Ashford, let me be very, very clear with you. One thing I've always learned to do in this world is to respect people's opinion. And whether condescending, whether supportive, I respect what your views are. Now, let me be very clear with you, Mr. Garley. You know, the Liberian political system is as such that what make you to be relevant in Liberian politics is to see you on Facebook insulting government, is to be in Monrovia toting placards. If that is your understanding of political relevance, then that's your definition. I can't get into that. Mr. Garley, let me say this to very, very clear to very few people. Those of you who believe that some of us, we have no political capital in Liberia, is a myth. I'll tell you today, any day is a myth. The reason why some of you will wish that your government will wish to have some of us on their side is because of what they know we bring to the table. Now, I'm not here, Mr. Garley, to relitigate my political engagements in Liberia, but I'll say this to you. In 2005, when some of us joined politics, when I was actively involved with the Liberian Action Party, go to district number 2, now district number 8. You need to sit down with Akara Moses Gray. I'm not turning to talk to politicians who joined politics 2017, 2011. I can't really argue with that, Mr. Garley. People have their right to say what they want to say. As far as I'm concerned, a man with no political relevance with my age is the current vice chairman for Operation Unity Party USA Canada. The Unity Party have members, a party that ruled for 12 years. We'll pick a young man of my kind, we'll go to a convention and win an election. We'll speak to the former vice president every day. Is a man with no relevance. That's something up to you people. I can't get into that. I would just say this to you, Mr. Garley. The current senator of Montserrado County, Abraham Darius DeLong, reached out to me before he was elected. I was his campaign spokesman that got DeLong elected senator. Now you still say this is a man with no political relevance. I'm not going to get back to that, Mr. Garley. People have the right to say what they want to say. But I'll say this to you, Mr. Garley. I definitely will be in Liberia to engage our people. Those who believe we have no political relevance, like I said, will be in Liberia and we'll make the case there. What they want to see is that George Lobo commit to maybe running or doing something. I've said I will not do that. At the end of the day, my dedication is to for the greater good of the country. And Proposition 1, let me speak on Proposition 1. Proposition 1 is dual citizenship with restriction. Proposition 1 is the law that states that natural-born Liberians who left Liberia will went abroad and pick up citizenship abroad. If the law passes, they can keep their citizenship they obtain abroad, but they will be restricted from participating in the political dispensation of their country. They can no longer be allowed to serve. They can no longer be allowed to contest any position, which I found to be discriminatory. And on the basis of that, Mr. Garley, I have decided to go to Liberia to engage our folks. So that is all I can say on that issue. So Liberians who live in the diaspora, Proposition 1 is strictly against you. It is not in your interest. It is discriminatory. And I'm calling on all of you for us to rally around, and then we'll proceed from there. Mr. Garley, for you to say, let me be clear. When people say I have no political capital, I can't go into that because you know whom our friends are. I mean,
you know who off years ago with the Liberian.
I mean, you know that with the Liberian Action Party, so I can't get into that. Some of those who talk today, I said, where were you in 2005? What were your engagements?
Those who just got into the Liberian politics, Liberia, between 2011 and 2017. And how can they now say you're nobody?
Yeah, because Mr. Garley, you remember one day you asked a question and you said, George, you were naming people in government, you said that you talk to, you are friends with them. And you say, how do you do it? It is the maturity, the experience that I bring to the table. Some people can acquire it by just antagonizing and attacking me overnight. Experience is acquired over a time. The reason why I can sit down and have a 2-hour conversation with people who don't come from my party, with people who don't speak my tribe, with people who don't go to the Catholic Church, it is on the basis of that experience. And you know who I speak to.
Again, George, I want to once again acknowledge the hard work and the professionalism from our sister stations in Liberia. Just so you know, you have pretty close to 1.5 million people listening to you tonight. And we are impressed with your excellent delivery tonight on Super FM, 95.5, Joy FM, 101.5, Live, 104.1, and of course, Top FM in the entire Southeast, where we have 105.3 and Top Television as well. And gentlemen, ladies in Liberia with the various radio stations, before the year ends, we'll be on 10 radio stations. And guess what, George? You will have 2.5 million people listening to you at the same time. But
I look forward to it.
Just before we go, I want to take this very last caller.
Okay.
And let's hear what she has to say. Hello, caller. I believe it's Koto Balayan from New York. Koto, how you doing? You live on the radio.
And thank you for bringing me on, and thanks, Lobbo, for also being in studio. And I'm one of those who have admired Lobbo, quite frankly, of him being articulated. He's well learned, not school, because they have different meaning of somebody who learned just from school, from all aspects. When it comes to the line of research, I have watched him, have listened to him. He's quite, understanding the political aspect and also the research aspect, and internationally and both internationally and nationally. I have been one of those who have been, in the background saying, but these are people that, we can vie for, to talk about at least coming. So even talk about retiring the old man where he can take, some place in society for Liberia. But to my surprise, I'm hearing somebody, I saw the text message, and I was like, this person is completely blind. But, I don't blame that person who is saying that, because their idea or their way of selecting leaders are just maybe by knowing this person, by interaction, maybe by what we call here, by I don't even know how to describe it, because it doesn't make relevance to me of how they select their candidates. Because it's so naive that you will see a well-learned guy who is articulated, who has been preaching politics, who has been talking politics, and I find Lobbo. He doesn't take side, even as he has a party.
Thank you, man. Please wrap it up. We're out of time. Please wrap it up.
I know, sorry, man. I want to talk so much. But
Jack, give her my number and tell her to call me. I would love to hear her input. I appreciate it greatly.
Doing the right thing. And for me, I've been to be behind the scene out there. I want to encourage Lobbo to even think of vying for some post and let us retire the old man, because he's getting old. We cannot abuse him now for his age. But I said, thank you so much for having me on this program.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Lobbo, your final statement before we take leave of you.
Let me once again, actually, I can't leave without acknowledging that type of level of compliments. I want to thank the sister, Koto, for those great words. I want to thank all of my supporters, followers, members of the drive. I can't go down the list because that may will take Ash for another 1 hour. But I want to thank every one of you who tuned in today. Let me also take this time to thank all of you Liberians from wherever part of the globe you've listened to me tonight. To those of you who call in, those who disagree with me, and those who agree with me. At the end of the day, Liberia remains our common denominator. I may not have answered the question exactly how you expected it, but I want you to bear in mind that we are only engaged in this process not because we want something, but the good of our country. And I want to say, Mr. Garley, once again, I'm very humble and grateful for the opportunity this platform has provided for me. I want to call on all of you Liberians, please support the Drive Civic Education Initiative. It's very important. I want to say thank you to our people in Liberia. Thank you as well. Thank you to your affiliate stations as well, Mr. Garley.
And folks, I'm afraid that's all the time I have to be with you tonight. God willing, tomorrow night I will have Quincy T.Y. Julie. This is where you ask to come in to get your laugh on. All the law for Quincy T.Y. Julie. This platform belongs to every Liberian, whether you are with the ruling establishment, you're with the opposition, and for once, I'm so proud to be in the position that I'm in right now. Even though the opposition accused me of being with the ruling establishment, the ruling establishment is also accusing me of being with the opposition. I love it. I love it.
It's good.
My hair ain't nobody mouth. Yeah, funky pan gut. Too juicy to get rid of and too bitter to swallow. This is who you have. And we will not allow anybody to compromise the integrity of this platform. The fact that several radio stations are waiting to work with us, it is a blessing, and we'll continue to work with them. You can come on here and express your ideas. Tell the people what they want to hear, or be professional, be civil. We can all have a great conversation. With that said, a big thanks to Top FM in Zredru, Super FM 95.5 in Liberia, Monrovia, Laugh FM 104.1, Joy FM 101.5. Thank you so much. And as the wise man always says, tough times don't last, tough people do. The height of a man is never known until he rises, and there's no second chance to make that first impression. Don't see okra and swallow bone, because you can't hide your nakedness from bathing bucket. When white men know your friend black man. A bald-headed man does not walk on the moonlight. The brother who doesn't eat iron, but he's definitely stronger than the lion. George Lobo second, even put foot. The medicine of the microphone, the golden voice of Liberia. Commissioner, ASHFORD the giant Garley. Oh man.
Kiamsito, voy a filer de belle.